Hey y'all, and welcome back to Tab Space. So, I am back and I got more energy. I needed a creative break. I'll be telling y'all, always have something to look forward to. Take your breaks when you need them. And I practice what I preach. I needed a mental health break very badly. I was under spiritual attack and I had to come up out of that. So now I'm back and I'm better. And I am, I've been thinking about, starting the show off a little differently. So this is what I have for y'all. I got another article. Well, just, yeah, I got another article. And in order to do my research, I like to do a little poll on my Instagram and ask y'all, what do you think about, the things that I'm about to talk about? So I asked my Instagram, do you think that emotions have value in the workplace? And the answers that I got, and this is what I'm going to need from y'all. And I guess I'm a message people moving forward. Tell me if you want me to say you're at or if you don't. Since I did not ask these people yet, I'm going to go with no. And then I'll ask them. And then moving forward, I'll know. So, I said, do emotions have any value in the workplace? And the answers I got are yes. Decision making and interpersonal communication needs some level of emotion. And the other response that I got was not unless it's empathy. So my answer is, of course, me being the Pisces and the mental health, person that I am, and everything that I stand for. Of course, I believe that emotions have value anywhere, but you have to be able to regulate them properly in order to communicate them effectively, in order for them to work. So, in any situation, expressing your emotions, a beautiful thing. It's just how are you doing it? So, that said, um I want to know what y'all think. Do you believe that emotions have value? And if so, what value do they have? Um, so ever since I've been working, I've been taught that my emotions don't have a place at work. You're always told, well, in previous jobs anyway, I've always been told, leave your emotions at the door. Leave them in the car, leave them at home, all that. And that's great when it comes to negative emotions. I don't know that you should walk into a situation, a work situation, or in any environment in a negative space. It's okay to have negative emotions towards something, but you got to express them properly, and you have to know which ones are worth expressing in the workplace, which can be very difficult to do. So there are a lot of findings, there's a lot of research behind how much value your emotions actually do have in the workspace. So what and where do we find value in our emotions in work situations? So, in an article on Thread, a media publishing company, the author Jessica Barnes says emerging research suggests that our emotions, far from being liabilities, actually sit amongst our most valuable assets. And I would have to completely agree with that statement. Instead of being distractions from rational thought, they are an integral part of it. So in order for you to think rationally, your emotions definitely are going to come into the situation. Your intuition, there's a lot of different emotions that come into play when you're at work. And I think that it's worth it to note that if your emotions towards your work situation are very negative in general, like the whole environment, that is an extremely important emotion to hone in on and understand. Where's the negativity coming from? Is it a toxic environment? Because if it is a toxic environment, I suggest looking to find another work situation. So don't ever think, oh, I'm tripping, I just don't want to work at all. No one wants to go to work, unless it's something that they love to do. So I don't think that any of us, if we had a choice between getting money to not go to work and getting money to go to work, I think most of us would choose to get money to not go to work. So that said, being in an environment that maybe it's not what you want to do. Okay, let's say you do something that's so far from what you want to do, but it's helping you get to the point where you can afford the schooling or whatever it is to get to that point. It's important that it's a healthy enough environment for you to go into it and not have an extra added stress on you. Yeah, a job in itself is going to have a certain level of stress, but it should not be a dread to you to wake up in the morning and go to work. It should not be something that you absolutely just hate because you hate being there with those people. And then you go home and you can't not think about your whole day, which was ruined by the people that you're around. So that whole rant was to say, value your emotions and pay attention to them. Just be able to effectively communicate them when there is something pressing or important. I agree completely with my Instagram commenters. They're right. Empathy, all that, all of that is so important. So research in neuroscience backs this up, showing that emotions and cognition are deeply intertwined, with feelings often guiding our reasoning processes. Let's face it, when you despise what you do, it's extremely difficult for you to do your best and be as productive as possible. Whether we like to admit it or not, our emotions and intuition guide a large majority of the things we do. If you feel fulfilled and as though your well-being is being prioritized, it's easier to endure the day-to-day stresses that come along with having a job. So, a better way to put what I was saying. Making decisions in the workplace is also greatly dependent on your emotional intelligence and intuition. If you're in a leadership position or more independent position at work, you'll need your emotional intelligence to deal with your subordinates or other coworkers. Learning from your mistakes is also a part of EI, or emotional intelligence, that cannot be discounted for either. So, being able to take accountability and being able to process when you make a mistake and learn from that mistake has to do with your emotional processing. If you lack there, it's not going to be easy for you to keep many jobs. I'm just going to be honest with you. Your emotional intelligence, it's not only important in the workplace, it's important in every facet of your life, because how you do one thing generally it's how you do everything. If you're an ethical person, you're going to be an ethical person in business. You're going to be an ethical person, with your friends and your family and everybody else. You're not going to completely contrast when you go to work versus when you come home. Your ethics should never change or anything like that. So that said, you gaining an emotional intelligence is not only going to help you in the workplace, it's going to help you at home. It's going to help you with dealing with people. It's going to help you with regulating your emotions and expressing them properly, and also taking in other people's emotions and processing them, and whether you agree with them or not, figuring out a way to, you know what I mean? Everybody, when you're collaborating, emotions get involved a lot. And when you're at work, you should be able to collaborate. And if you're dealing with two completely emotionally unintelligent people and they're trying to collaborate or have a normal conversation about anything, it's going to be overcomplicated by that lack of emotional intelligence. So in an article by Kristen Murray, career and leadership coach, she's quoted saying, emotions matter in the workplace because as a heart-centered leader, you're able to take these emotions that your team is describing and adapt your leadership style, which means you're able to provide more effective support. So it's not even just about being an employee. It's also about being a boss. It's about being a leader. And if you want to be a leader in life or at work, you have to consider other people's emotions. You can't just completely go off logic all the time. Yeah, it would be great. It would be, you know what I mean, a real clean cut world if everything was based off logic, but that's just not realistic. That's not real life. Most things at work, yes, they're based off logic, but there are certain decisions that are made based off of ethics and people's emotions towards a situation. So when you ignore your emotions or you don't provide an environment where it's okay to share how your people are feeling, you may experience low morale, productivity, and engagement within your team. I've had some toxic bosses in my life, and I promise you, if you do not care about the well-being and the just generally how the people that you employ, how they feel, not only about the workplace, but also about you as a leader, you're not going to have many subordinates for long. I've literally watched teams go from handfuls of people to diminishing to 2 to 3 people because of poor leadership, poor management, and a lack of care for anybody's emotions but that person, that boss. And you cannot succeed without your employees if you're a leader. So that's where you differentiate between a boss and a leader. A boss is more of a dictator in certain situations. A leader is more of a person that will be there to guide you, coach you, make sure that you're good. They don't need to be all up in your business, but they got to make sure that your head's in the game before you come in here and try to do your job, because you cannot operate properly if your emotions are all out of whack, or if you're not in an environment where you can express that. And I'm going to say, in contrast, on the positive note, where I work now, it's the complete opposite. I don't feel like I work with dictators. I don't feel as though my emotions are not cared about or prioritized whatsoever. Like, I definitely can feel the difference between the leadership styles. Sharing how you feel can lead to better collaboration amongst team members and foster an environment that shows people they aren't alone in whatever workplace struggles they are having. This also leads to better employee retention and checks limiting beliefs that ultimately lead to higher turnover rates. When you open up an environment for people to be able to open up, it opens up the workplace in a different type of way. I can't describe it. It's a lot more of a collaborative space when when people are under the right leadership. And I think that a lot of people that kind of like job hop, That's the issue. There are a lot of jobs out there, unfortunately, especially nowadays, that from the top all the way down, it's just unethical. And I'm telling you, if you're shady in your ethics and you're trying to like run a business, eventually you're going to continue to hire people that are shady ethically, and eventually your company's not going to do what it needs to do. So, anybody that wants to be in a leadership position, you might get away with it for a minute. You might even get very far. But everything that happens in the dark comes to light. So, if you're shady, it's going to catch up to you eventually. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow. It might be 20 years from when you did it. But you're going to pay for it eventually. See, Kristen goes on to say, as a leader who embraces showing vulnerability and emotions, I am able to own my mistakes and for my behavior. And that's another thing. A boss has to be willing to be as vulnerable with you as you're willing to be with them. They have to say, oh, you know what? There was a gray area there. I messed up. I did this or I didn't. You know what I mean? Because if they can be forthcoming with you, you can be forthcoming with them. Just point blank, period. Let's see. When I'm realistic about what I can and can't do, I become more relatable. When I share how I'm feeling, people realize, especially my team, that I'm just like them. I might have a different title and responsibilities, but at the end of the day, I have similar feelings, insecurities, and beliefs that shape how I am turning up every day. So, being like humanizing yourself in leadership positions, having humility, allowing people to see that you bleed too. You know what I mean? You make mistakes as well. That also opens up a much brighter environment. A much bigger team of people can stick around you if you lead in that way. But I'm going to just be straight up. If you can't be effing for real sometimes and own up to your stuff, I don't know what you expect out of your team. If you can't have any humility, I don't know what you expect out of anybody. I don't know why certain people, they get to a certain level and they lose being humble. Always remain humble. No matter how far you get, no matter how much money you get, no matter where you go, you have to remain humble. You have to remember who you are and who you came from and where you came from and how far you've come. But don't get ahead of yourself. Because just as easy as you can come up, you can come down. And it ain't an easy come up. But the fall, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. It's like that. The higher up you go, the harder of a fall it's going to be. So anyway, this part of the article really stuck out to me because it also encapsulates another part of a leadership tactic that I think is important, which is humanizing yourself with your staff. Your boss can feel like someone that's out of reach when it comes to having a normal conversation. While this maintains an environment that makes the employee While this maintains a certain level of respect, it also creates, on the flip side, an environment that makes the employee feel less likely to approach their boss with work or personal struggles. This can lead to a domino effect of negative behaviors that put the employee in a bad light, although it's a result of a bigger outside issue. When you can come down to earth with your boss and explain the circumstances, it allows for stronger working relationships and it gives them the opportunity to deal with you according to your struggle as well, and not hold you up to an unrealistic standard for a specific point in your life. What do I mean by that? If you just lost your aunt or your uncle, or you know what I mean, you're just going through it and you can't come to work and tell your boss because you know your boss is not going to give a damn. That is a whole extra unneeded level of stress. And that's the type of stuff that leads to people having health issues and other things that they need to rely on the job to keep paying for as a result. So, very important. Yeah. And I don't mean, oh, you know what I mean, you treat somebody differently or anything like that. I just mean sometimes when your boss understands you might need a mental health day from time to time, it's a lot better than you possibly losing your job or collecting points or some other silly thing, because you do have to prioritize your mental health from time to time over your job. You do. Yeah, sometimes those numbers gotta wait. Whatever it is, it's gotta wait, or somebody else has gotta do it today. Because honestly, when your mental's messed up, you can't get the same amount or the same quality work done. Your mental should not be messed up all the time. It should not be something that's taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form. But that said, yeah. It takes emotional intelligence from both parties to approach and deal with this correctly, but the first step is to understanding that your emotions do in fact matter whether you're at work or not. No matter where you're at, your emotions matter. Okay, I want y'all to always know that. You should prioritize gaining emotional intelligence as it is a crucial life skill, and always keep in mind no job, person, place, or thing is worth your mental health. Always remember that, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning back in. Thank y'all for sticking with me through my my times. Being in your early 20s is not easy, but I'm making my way downtown with it. So let me know what y'all think in the comments. And I'm going to see y'all in my next video. Bye.